As each person in the group stepped through the portal, they all held onto each other's shoulders firmly. They weren't quite sure how the square portals worked concerning the circular portals. Was it like a station or a white portal where it was able to teleport you to a specific destination? Or was it like a red teleporter where it would teleport you within a mile or so of another one? Whatever the outcome was, the group didn't want to be separated from each other. So whatever they did while stepping through, they didn't let go. Standing at the front was Quinn, leading the charge if they were to head into any sort of danger, and at the back was Layla, their support with Sia being a little bit in front of her. The warpy feeling they would feel when going through the teleporter was gone, and Sia had her eyes closed through the whole thing. Now they had finally made it to their destination, but when Sia opened her eyes, she could see nothing. It was complete darkness. "What's going on?" Sia said, being frightened, her voice shaking. She tightened her grip on the person in front of her, which was Varden. "Ow, your nails hurt, you know," Varden complained. "But I can't see anything," she cried. "And you think I can?" Varden, too, was unable to see anything around him, but he was sure they were on the other side of the teleporter. "I expected the vampire world to be dark, but complete darkness? This doesn't make any sense," Logan said. "We're not outside, that's why," Quinn replied, being one of the few that could see. Layla and Quinn could both see quite well in the room. "Is it safe to act? Is there anything around us?" Logan asked, not wanting to make any sudden movements, although he was sure that if there was anything in the room with them, they would have been attacked by now due to Sia's and Varden's back-and-forth chatter. The two of them still seemed to be bickering with each other now. "It's safe," Quinn replied. From underneath his suit, the spiders moved up to his face and started to form around his eyes, creating a type of night vision for Logan. Now he too could see clearly where they were. As soon as he realized what it was, the adrenaline started to run through his body. The whole room was covered with terminals, servers, and computers. Not just that, but where they stood there was a circular platform, and above them some type of contraption. In corners of the room, there were chemical gadgets and all sorts. But what was getting him excited more than anything was the layout of the room. If he was to move all of his research to a place like this, it would be exactly how he would organize it. "All right, everyone, don't panic. Just wait here for a moment," Logan said as he let go of who he was holding on to and started to investigate one of the terminals. There were many buttons that Logan had no clue what they did. He could have guessed, but if he did, it wouldn't exactly be accurate, so instead he placed his hand on the machine. Using his ability, he was able to directly communicate with it and give it orders. It was easy to tell which was the main terminal, and soon several lights opened all over the room. "Ah!" Quinn flinched as the lights turned on, and Layla had done the same. "Could you warn us beforehand next time?" Lights didn't hurt Quinn as the sunlight did, but sudden exposure from dark to light would startle him a bit. Now the whole group could see quite clearly that they seemed to be in some sort of science lab, although it also looked to be abandoned. Some of the computers and equipment had rusted, and there were cobwebs over everything, as if they hadn't been touched in 100 years. "All right, let's try to spread out and look for clues or something," Logan said. "Now, I must remind you, I asked to spread out, not split up, got it? Stay in this room. We all know what happens to the first person who gets lost in a horror film, right?" "Is it the right time to make that type of joke?" Layla asked. "When we're on another planet with a load of blood-sucking vampires?" "I'll take your point on board," Logan replied. Logan had signaled for Quinn to come with him as he wanted to confirm something, while the others tried to find any details of where they were. The room was strange. There were several numbered doors on one side that didn't seem to open no matter what they did. Then there were two larger doors on each of the other sides, but none of them opened either. In a way, it seemed like they were trapped. There were no windows or anything similar that indicated where they were. "Would you mind using your system to try to figure out who made these items?" Logan asked, pointing forth at the weird claw-like object above the circle platform they had landed on. "Inspect. A teleporter created by Richard Eno." Quinn then went ahead and looked at a few other items, and although the system couldn't tell what most of them were, it did tell him they were all created by Richard Eno. "It's a teleporter," Quinn answered. "I thought as much," replied Logan. "At least now we have our way back. I can activate it whenever I want using the terminal over there. Although everything looks old and damaged here, it's quite advanced. Some of this technology has only recently been introduced to our world." "Makes sense why it said they were all made by Richard Eno," Quinn said. A teleporter created by Richard Eno had led them to a laboratory created by him as well. It was clear it wasn't a coincidence. The question was, whatever Feck said, was it true? Were they in the vampire world? Or had he made a mistake in just recognizing the teleporter as one of their own? They wouldn't know until they dug deeper, but other than that, the two of them started to think along the same lines. If they were in the vampire world, then what was Richard Eno doing here? There were a few possibilities. He was a vampire himself that later migrated to the human world, or a human who worked with the vampires, or was doing research on the vampires. All of these were a great possibility. "Quinn, thank you," Logan said with a smile on his face. The two of them continued searching until they eventually reached another working terminal. This one had several different screens, 6 in total. Each screen seemed to be linked to a camera, and all of the rooms looked the same. It was a square space with nothing inside. It reminded Quinn of certain mental asylums. "Look at this," Quinn said, pointing to the screen. Logan had seen it too. The rooms had marks of blood all over them, the walls, ceilings, and floor. However, they were quite dark and looked like they had been there for a while. "Maybe the rooms were used to run experiments of some sort," Logan said. "Live subjects, human subjects, or other vampires?" "Well, if we can get to where those cameras are, I can check the blood. Maybe it will give us more answers to what type of place this is and who exactly Richard Eno was, because I don't know why, but this place is giving me the chills." While Layla and Sia were sticking to each other like glue, Varden was looking at the wall with several doors that had different numbers on them. There were 6 doors in total, each with a number on the front. He saw the girls looking at them earlier, but didn't attempt to open them much. Feeling a little trapped, he was looking for an exit. As he approached the first door, he looked around to see if there was anything, but there was nothing. At the same time, over to where Quinn and Logan were, they had figured out something. Logan's hand was pressed up against the computer. "It's telling me if we press this button, it will open a door to one of the rooms." Pressing the button, the door had opened, and a slight steamy sound was heard. When they looked up at where the door had opened, they could see Varden standing in front of an open door. Varden could see a room in front of him, but was cautious about stepping in. But nearly in an instant, something had grabbed him, pulling him in. The door soon after immediately shut again. "Level 1 trial initiated." "Open the door," Quinn shouted. "I can't," Logan replied. "I don't know what's happening. It's not listening." Varden was trapped. Logan had now both of his hands pressed on the terminal, and his expression was one of struggle as he started to sweat a little. This was the first time Quinn had seen him panic like that. This only meant they were in a tough situation. "I can't open the door," Logan shouted. "It can understand me, and it's listening to me, but it's the first time a machine has ever been able to outright refuse my requests like this. What's going on?" He tried and tried again, but it was clear that right now there was nothing they could do to help Varden. The two girls were not too far from the other doors themselves, and before anything could happen to them, Quinn quickly called them over. "Come over here," Quinn shouted. "We don't want any more surprises." All of them were now carefully watching one of the screens on the terminal that clearly showed Varden in the room. Inside the room, Varden had felt a very strong force pulling him by the back of his collar. He was practically chucked into the room, but as soon as the door closed, whatever was pulling him had stopped. He immediately turned around, and as he did, he drew out both of the black and white blades, ready for anything. He had touched Sia before, so he also had her ability, but nothing else, and hers wasn't an offensive one in the first place, so the only thing he could rely on right now were the weapons. Now standing in front of him, he could see one thing in the room. It was a robot, although not a humanoid-looking one, to say the least. Its upper body was that of a human, having 2 hands and a chest frame with a head on top, but after that nothing else looked human. Where its head should have been, there was a single eye that looked like a pair of binoculars, and as for the legs, they were non-existent. Instead, it was a pair of triangle-shaped wheels with the tire being a band that would move along with the robot, emulating a treadmill. Since it was the only thing in the room, Varden could only guess that it was his robot that had pulled him in. Although it looked weak for a brief second, he had felt its strength and was extremely cautious. As he backed up with his blades continually drawn, he didn't break eye contact even for a second. Then, when he felt his back go up against the wall, Varden lifted his foot and hit it as hard as he could with his heel, but there was no response. He could not move it at all. When Quinn had used his inspection skill, he had made a note that everything was made of galthrium, which was why he hadn't even attempted to break down any of the doors. And if Quinn couldn't do it, then Varden definitely felt like he couldn't do it either. "Trial 1 has been initiated," a voice said from the robot. "A new participant has been detected. Please state your family number." "Family number?" Varden said, looking confused. "Does he mean my family name?" "Blade family?" Varden shouted. The robot took a few seconds to reply. "Error. Family number not found. Please try again." What do we do? Layla asked. Is he going to be okay? I'm not sure, Logan replied. Usually the group always went to him for answers, but with the way things were, he was a bit shell-shocked and had no idea how to proceed in this type of situation. The only thing I can guess is the robot said this is some type of trial, right? If he passes, maybe he can get out. But the machine has a mind of its own. Usually my ability gives life to things with a voice. It allows me to communicate and control them, but this machine already had its voice. It was as if I was talking to another human, and it's refusing to do anything I ask it to do. Hearing this crisis and what the robot was saying, Quinn thought he might be the only one that would be able to help Varden out of this trial. System, do you know anything about this place? What is it? I'm afraid not. This whole area is unfamiliar, and I've never seen anything like this before, the system replied. Quinn did remember stating that when the system was alive, he lived on Earth, so it would make sense to not know about this if the lab was relocated along with the vampires. You want a number, right? Varden said. Then my lucky number, 77. Error, family number not found. Please try again. Hearing the robot speak again, Quinn had an idea. If they were in the vampire world, then it must be related to the 13 vampire families. Varden, pick a number between 1 and 13, he shouted. Hearing this, Varden replied, 10. Please state your current rank. For the first time it had asked another question, and they were starting to make progress. Vampire, Quinn shouted, assuming it meant the different evolutions within the vampire circles. Vampire. The robot then started to move slightly. Out of its chest piece a small door was opened, and came out with what looked like a small tray. On it, a syringe with a green solution inside was displayed. Will you be taking the solution for this trial? The robot asked. This at least confirmed one thing to the others. The trial hadn't even begun yet. However, both Quinn and Logan were extremely interested in what was exactly in the strange green liquid. Perhaps it would give them answers to what this whole trial thing was about in the first place. Quinn, what do I say? You've been right about everything so far, Varden said. But just to warn you, I have a feeling that if I say yes, there's a good chance he's going to force me to take it, or won't let me leave until I take the solution. It was clear by the question presented that this was an optional thing, and however much Quinn and Logan were interested in the syringe, they couldn't just use Varden like a guinea pig, especially in extreme situations like this. Say no, Quinn shouted. No, Varden replied, and the green solution went back into the strange robot. For the first time, the robot had moved from its place and went to the back of the room up against the wall. All of these actions and the anticipation of what was about to happen next were making not only Varden nervous, but the rest as well. Suddenly from above, a hole in the ceiling had appeared, and then closed nearly just as quickly. In the short time it had opened, something had fallen from the ceiling and made a loud, thumping noise below. The first thing that came to Varden's senses wasn't the appearance of what had fallen, but instead the smell. He had wanted to immediately lift his shirt to cover his mouth, but was aware he couldn't. The smell was extremely bad. It smelled as if the food had been left out for several days. When he looked at what had dropped on the floor and where the smell had come from, he could see something had been wrapped up in a black rag, and on the outside of it was blood. Moving forward towards the black ragged item, Varden pointed his black sword forward and reached out, pushing it with the side of his sword. The item had unwrapped itself from the rag and rolled out, revealing a severed arm. Immediately outside, Sia had to look away from the screen. She could take all of the things Layla had said, but seeing this, reality started to hit her about what type of place they were really in. Looking at the arm closer, Varden could tell that it wasn't a fresh one, because it looked pale and most of the inside looked rotten. After dealing with Peter, he had seen his fair share of fresh limbs that had been cut off. The trial will now begin, an announcement was made. Once again, one of the panels from the ceiling quickly opened, and this time on the other side of the room, something larger had fallen to the floor. It was curled up in a ball, but it looked to be human. Its bony spine could be seen, and it had no clothes, apart from a rag covering its privates. It was bald and almost gray. Strange sounds could be heard coming from the figure, and Varden took a few steps back slowly, not wanting to make any noise. Slowly the figure started to uncurl from its ball-like shape and stood on its 2 feet. It was tall, nearly 7 foot, and looked like a human. However, it looked as if the creature was made of nothing but skin and bones, as in its ribcage, kneecaps, and several other areas could be seen clearly. Then when looking at its head, all that could be seen in its eyes was white. Ah! This creature screamed, and as it opened its mouth wide, it revealed several razor-sharp teeth. Similar to a vampire, only every single one of its teeth was just as sharp. Quinn, the system said with horror in its voice. That's a Wendigo. It was a word that hadn't been mentioned in a while, and it had long shifted to the back of Quinn's mind, but suddenly all of the bad thoughts came rushing out of his head as the system had said those words. The Wendigo was one of the evolutions a ghoul could evolve into. It was one of the options that Peter was able to evolve into, but instead, he turned into a wight. They were similar to wights with their amazing healing capabilities and strength, but at the same time vastly different. They showed no signs of intelligence and were unable to speak any words. They were detached from any emotion, only feeling one thing: hunger. Their hunger was far greater for flesh than a ghoul or a wight. While they did it out of survival, the Wendigo did it out of addiction. They were one of the very few evolutions that, when created, would be completely detached from their creator. They could be killed without any type of ramifications, since the connection was no longer there, which made them perfect for testing situations like this. How strong is that thing? Quinn hurriedly asked the system, knowing full well Varden didn't have many abilities. It's hard to tell from looks. It's unlike a wight that gets stronger as its master gets stronger due to their connection. A Wendigo will only be as strong as its master when it was evolved, and then further gain strength depending on how much it has eaten, meaning it all depends on who created it and what happened after. With no clue on what to do or how to help, it looked like Varden was on his own with this one. Stepping back, Varden readied himself as the Wendigo started to move closer to the middle of the room. Once it goes for that arm, it will be my chance to attack, Varden thought. The Wendigo carried on moving, and as it reached the center it didn't stop. It had completely stepped over the arm, ignoring it completely. In a second, all of Varden's hopes were dashed. Of course, why would it go for that manky old thing when it has a freshly made burger right in front of it? Although it was large, perhaps it wasn't powerful, was Varden's next thought, but suddenly the Wendigo leaped towards Varden with its long clawed arms. A roll was made at just the right time, dodging the attack, but as soon as he gained his footing, another swipe was made. Activating the white sword had allowed his body to move just a tad bit faster, and he had blocked the attack. Still, his whole arm was flung to the side. Quickly switching back to black blade, Varden swung down hard at the second claw that was coming at him, managing to pin it and hit it to the ground. After practicing a little with the swords, Varden realized that the pair had a very unique active skill, called yin and yang. Although both weapons had an active skill, while using one, he was unable to use the other. While using the yang blade, his whole body got a speed boost, allowing him to use his sword skills and movements quickly. While using the yin blade, although his speed was back to normal, his power was greatly increased, and now he could tell he was able to match it in power. Still, there was a problem. The Wendigo was both faster and stronger than his natural self, making it difficult as he quickly needed to switch between the two as he did then. This was not only taxing for his mind, but his body as well. Lifting the black blade, he quickly activated the white blade's power and started to move back, avoiding the next set of swipes that came his way. "Will you please give me a break?" he shouted, as the Wendigo carried on coming at him like a wild animal. There was only one thing left that he could do. He threw the black blade up in the air while using the white blade to dodge the fast attacks. This meant that now his other hand was free, and he was able to use the spirit spear. Throwing it outward, it had stabbed the Wendigo in the stomach. It caused no pain, but that wasn't what Varden was aiming for. The beast slowed down, and it was at a speed that Varden could now match. As he dodged the next set of attacks, he did a little spin and jumped for the black blade in the air. As soon as he did that, he activated the black blade's power and swung both blades right at the Wendigo's head, cutting it clean off. Its body quickly fell to the floor, and Varden was huffing and panting greatly. His breathing was completely off, and his chest was hurting. The constant switching was also messing up with his body's natural rhythm, even causing his heart to miss beat in some extremely dangerous areas. Any longer and he could have been in serious trouble. "I don't know if that boy is lucky or just has really good instincts," the system said. "If he was to cut off any other part of the Wendigo's body, it would have almost healed on the spot, prolonging the fight. Cutting off the head is the only way to kill the undead." "And you don't think he could have used that advice during the fight?" Quinn said back, annoyed at the useless system. "The fight was far too intense to allow any distractions. Telling you to tell him would have made his chances of survival decrease." While Varden was still holding his chest in the white room, there was one thing he was sure about. If he needed to fight another one of those things, he wasn't sure if he could make it out alive. The robot once again started to move over to Wendigo's body. It pointed one of its hands towards the body, and after a few seconds, that hand had completely transformed into what looked like an oval-shaped cannon. Out of it, a large laser-like substance was shot. It wasn't harming the room in any way, but as it touched the body, parts of it quickly turned into ash. I guess I did the right thing to not try to fight that thing, Varden thought as he gulped. As soon as the whole thing was turned to ash, like a vacuum it started to suck up the ashes until there was no trace of the Wendigo left at all. The same process was then done with the rag and arm as well. The robot then moved back towards the center and finally made an announcement. Trial 1 has been completed. Would you like to continue on to the next one? The robot asked. Hell no, Varden answered immediately. Get me out of here. Trial put on hold. Reward shall be distributed. The robot once again opened up the tray on its body, only this time a red, round-shaped pill was placed on it. The door had yet to open as Varden looked around, and it looked like nothing would happen until he took the pill. Damn it, he thought as he picked up the pill, but at the same time, the steam sound of the door opening behind him was heard. He only needed to take the reward and not consume it. He was never happier to leave such a place, and not waiting a second, bolted out of the room. When he left, the door behind closed once again. Varden, are you hurt anywhere? Layla said, running up to him and looking around. I'm fine, that thing didn't even put a scratch on me, he replied. It did look like you were having a hard time in there, but I'm just happy I wasn't the one that caused your death, Logan said. Do you mind if I take a look at what that robot gave you? Quinn asked. Varden showed Quinn the small little red ball pill, and Quinn used his inspection skill to see what it was. Inspect. A special pill designed by Richard Eno. It will permanently increase one's strength. The description was short, and for a second, Quinn had to read it again. He had never heard of any type of pill that could do such a thing before. But now what he was more worried about was if there were any side effects to such a thing, and if anyone could use it. Do you know what it is? Varden asked. Kinda, Quinn replied. He decided it was time to explain further how his vampire powers worked. It didn't make sense to hide it any longer, and it was only making things more difficult. Just because they knew it was a system wouldn't change a thing. So he proceeded to tell them about how the system and his vampire powers worked. Now they all knew how Quinn was able to get stronger and why he had known so much information about things. The only thing he still kept a secret was the AI system related to the system. Even he didn't know much about it, and that would just complicate things. Anyway, while using my inspection skill, it says it can permanently increase a person's strength. Honestly, it sounds similar to when I consume an A type of blood, but I don't know if it will even work or if there are any side effects. Varden thought about it for a while before giving his answer. I think it's best if I keep it for now. Maybe we will find more information on it, or when we get back, Logan can do more research, Varden replied. Finding out about the effects of the pill had only made Quinn more interested in what the green liquid in the syringe was. Do you think we could start the trial again? Quinn asked. The others turned and suddenly looked at him like he was a type of madman, while Logan seemed to be the only one on the same wavelength. Listen to him. Right now we have no way of getting out of here, Logan said. Even after using all these terminals, none of them open the doors out of this building. The only thing we have seen, though, is stranger things enter it through that room. Who knows if there are more creatures? We might even be in the large facility, but we still need to find a way to get out of here. Quinn also wanted to go and inspect the blood on the walls to see if it was from a vampire or a human. I should be fine. If it's like before and a Wendigo comes out, I'm confident I should be able to beat it easily, Quinn replied, and this time I'll stay in the room to see if there's anything I can do from the inside. The others didn't like it, but honestly, there was no better option. Quinn prepared himself before entering and had chosen to go in the same door. The other doors were unknown variables. Most likely they all did the same thing, so they could run 6 different tests at the same time. But just to make sure it was safe, he chose to pick the same room. Here they at least knew a little bit of what could happen. Open the door, Quinn said, and Logan pushed the button, allowing the door to open. As Quinn stepped into the room, the robot was already there, waiting for him. The door behind him then closed, and the robot started up once again. Resuming trials. Trial 2 will now begin. Entering the room, an unexpected message had occurred, but the door behind Quinn closed instantly. Judging from what happened with Varden, now there was nothing he could do until the trial was complete. Did that thing just say Trial 2? Layla asked, and not Trial 1? They all thought the same thing. When he entered, they thought the robot would recognize Quinn as a new subject, starting the process all over again from the beginning. Seeing that this wasn't the case, Logan naturally tried looking for answers. He placed his hand on the terminal, trying to communicate with it one more time. Machines and robots all followed a set of code, instructions, and rules. However, he was only met with disappointment. once again reminded of how this strange computer seemed to have a mind of its own, doing things out of the ordinary. Quinn was unafraid, confident in his new skills and newfound power. He was able to get a good gauge on the Wendigo's strength watching Varden, and if he was to face something a little harder, he knew he could get through it. Instead, multiple thoughts were running through his head, thinking about how they could get out of this place. What exactly was this place being used for? Looking at several blood marks, Quinn activated his level 3 inspection skill. A little window popped up above each one of the blood, giving out little bits of information. What had surprised him a little was how the blood marks were a mixture of human as well as an unknown blood type. If he was to take a guess, the unknown blood type would belong to the vampires. They didn't have a set blood type like humans did, but were still red all the same. Looking at the information, there wasn't much detail, only what letter the blood type was. As for the ones he couldn't recognize, it just came up with several question marks. Before the trial would start, just like last time, the robot opened up its little tray from its chest piece and revealed the green solution. Inspect. A 10% increase in all stats, once consumed, will last 1 hour. Although the inspect skill once again couldn't tell where the green liquid had come from, seeing that message, something clicked in Quinn's head. The effect he was looking at now was the same effect when he had consumed the Dalkey's green blood. It couldn't have been a coincidence that the liquid in the syringe was green, on top of having the same effect. There was a high chance that it was Dalkey blood. Are the vampires and the Dalkey related after all? Quinn thought. But there was another confusing thing. The system had seen Dalkey blood before, so why didn't it register it? Instead, it just came up with question marks. Will you be taking the solution for this trial? The robot said. Yes, Quinn replied. What are you doing, Quinn? Varden shouted, hearing his answer. It's a risky thing, and maybe the robot won't start the trial until you take the thing. We can't guarantee it will be like the rewards. But Quinn had another theory. He was 90% sure this was the same as the Dalkey blood. When he consumed the blood before, there were no side effects and only positives. The way he was now, it was unlikely he would die by such a thing, and it was clear they were testing this out on vampires, and possibly humans as well. They wouldn't just outright give them a solution that would kill them. Taking the syringe from the robot, he waited for some type of response, but nothing came, which meant Varden was right. It wanted him to take the syringe before the trial would start. Sorry, Logan, looks like I'm going to have to find some other way to get you this stuff. Digging the needle into the top of his thigh, the green liquid slowly injected into his body. He could feel a strange tingling sensation spreading throughout his body as if it's on fire. It reminded him a little of the sensation he had felt at the hospital after consuming too many blood types. Finally, it stopped, but his body felt fresh. Status? After looking at his stats, a big smile appeared on his face. It was a temporary buff in strength, but since he had hit his limit, he wasn't too sure if it would have worked, but looked like the effects were still there, as all of his stats had increased by 4. Trial 2 will now begin, the robot said as it moved back and allowed for 2 objects wrapped in rags to fall to the floor. There was no need to check what was underneath those rags, as they all already knew. Inspect. A severed human arm. Not too much of a surprise, Quinn said. Shortly after, 2 larger objects had dropped from the ceiling, and they had already seen these once before. They were the Wendigos that Varden had faced only moments ago. I'm glad I could leave the room, Varden said. I would have been dead otherwise. It wasn't because Varden was by any means weak, but at this moment he felt so, due to not having any of his abilities to copy from. He was thankful he had at least the 2 swords to defend himself. Where are those ugly things coming from? Sia asked. She has a point, Logan replied. How many of those Wendigos do they even have? Is there a breeding ground somewhere of some sort? Maybe a storage room where they are all kept in? On top of that, how long have they been up there? Judging by the food, they are dropping with it. It's been a long time since anyone has looked after this place. I hate to say it, but this facility might be incredibly dangerous. Once Quinn gets out of there, we should do our best to leave this place and stop playing this robot's silly games. I hate when I have no clue what's happening, and I can't even think straight. Logan's mind had been rattled by this whole experience. The excitement he initially had was now completely gone, and he just wanted to leave. Usually, machines, gadgets, and robots would be his safe haven, but right now, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Perhaps at a later time, when they understood more, he would be happy to come back. Quinn stayed in the center, not moving from his spot. He had all of his beast gear on, and that included his new gauntlets. They had been equipped before he had even traveled through the teleporter in case they ran into trouble the second they arrived. The 2 Wendigos started to get up from their crouched positions and in a split second, both of them leapt straight forward towards Quinn. "Your aggressive nature makes you all a little bit too predictable." They were both quite a bit taller than himself, but when they leapt, they were slightly crouched like a beast, making them level with his shoulders. At the right time, Quinn jumped up, avoiding the pair of long arms and kicking the others away. Now being slightly above them, on the way back down, he grabbed them both on top of their heads. He felt like he could have quite easily dealt with them, and if he wanted to, he could have crushed their skulls. But there was something he was eager to try out. "Activate skill, Thunder Coat." Quickly, the blue lines running through his gauntlets started to light up. They followed from his elbow down to his fingertips. In nearly an instant, a blue electric discharge came out, covering both of his gauntlets. The power was passed through onto the Wendigos, shocking their bodies. They immediately fell to the floor and started to shake uncontrollably. It managed to stop them completely. They were quite physically powerful, but the attack doesn't seem to have done much damage. It was a good opponent to test the active skill on, and so far Quinn was pleased, but still, he had no idea how this would affect even stronger opponents. Using all of his strength, Quinn stomped on the first Wendigo's head, splattering it to pieces. It was done so easily that it was as if there was no skull at all. He then did the same to the other while it continued to shake about on the floor, and now their bodies were no longer moving. Sia, seeing how easy and quick Quinn had dealt with the things, turned her head to look at Varden. Was he just weak? She thought, but then remembered how quick she could see him moving on the camera. That couldn't be the case, and he had even used her spirit blade. It just meant the person she was watching now was incredibly strong. I'm glad he's on our side. I would hate to be his enemy. A Wendigo has been killed. 400 EXP gained. 400 EXP gained. First time kill bonus reward. 4,000 EXP. Current EXP. 29,690 of 51,200. There's still a long way to go. They're just not strong enough, Quinn thought. After the robot had finished cleaning up the mess, it did the same as last time. Trial 2 completed. Please take your rewards. This time, 2 red pills were displayed. One was the same one that Varden had. As for the other, it looked the same but gave a different effect. Will permanently increase the user's agility. After taking the 2 pills, the robot started again. Would you like to continue on to Trial 3? Although Quinn thought it might be a good idea to continue playing around with the trials, he didn't know how long they would go on, and if it would even result in them leaving the place. No, Quinn replied. The door had instantly opened, and in that brief second, Quinn had activated his boots, giving him a 10% increase in speed. With his stat increase, the strange green substance, and his boots' active skill, his speed was now beyond 50 points, taking him to the next level. In a short time, using all his strength, he picked up the strange-looking robot and ran as fast as he could out of the door. As if everything was playing in slow motion in his eyes, he could see the door already closing, but it was far too slow for him now. As the door shut behind him, Quinn had the robot safely placed above his head. This should be a nice little gift, huh? As soon as Quinn had come out with the robot above his head, the others immediately started to duck behind terminals, tables, and desks. They had all seen through the video feed what it had done to the Wendigo's body, and they were all starting to panic, thinking the robot might suddenly go on some sort of rampage. But after waiting a few seconds, they started to lift their hands off their ears and peek over the objects they were hiding behind. What are you all so worried about? Quinn said, with the robot now standing upright by his side. Looking at the robot closely, previously its single eye on its head would be glowing red, especially when it was giving orders, but now they could see no such thing. Although Quinn wasn't 100% sure, as soon as he said no, he could see the robot's eye color dim as it deactivated itself. Even if it did start firing lasers everywhere, Quinn was hoping he could overpower it, moving its arm and pointing the laser at one of the doors, making their exit out of the place. In all honesty, he was a bit disappointed that it didn't start shooting lasers, because they still had the overall problem and struggle of finding a way out of the place. What were you thinking? Layla said. Did you want to keep the robot as a pet or something? Layla's heart was still beating fast, seeing as she was a little startled. Ever since her change, her emotions were a little higher strung than usual, but being in the strange lab didn't exactly help things either. Now, instead, it looked like Sia was the one calming her down and giving her comfort, telling her to take deep breaths in and out slowly. There are a few reasons, Quinn replied. First off, I was hoping to use the robot's laser to try and pry the door open. I know it probably won't work, but we don't have many options. The second reason is we have no clue how many trials there are, nor if they will lead us to get out of this place to begin with. What we do know is Mr. Tin here, Quinn said, slapping him on the head. "Has been giving us all the rewards, and I thought it would be a nice possible shortcut to the end. Maybe the last reward is a key." Approaching the robot, Logan was greatly interested in it. He got Quinn to lay it on the floor and stand nearby in case there were any sudden surprises. As he went to place his hand on top of it, Logan hesitated for a second. The fear had gotten to him, the fear of failure. Perhaps, just like with everything else, there was nothing he could do. His hand stayed a few inches above the robot's chest, shaking, and Quinn noticed this too. "What's wrong?" Quinn asked. "What if I can't do it?" Logan said. "Does that matter? It's not like any of us could do better. Don't you want to be better than Richard Eno?" Quinn asked. He had been around Logan long enough to know what spurred him on, and he needed a push to get back to his usual self. "Well, here's your chance, right? Everything in here belongs to him, and it seems like you've already given up. You never thought it would be easy as to just use your ability to beat him, right?" Thinking about Quinn's words, he knew he was right. For the first time, his ability hadn't worked on a machine, and it had completely startled him. But others who didn't have this ability of his still went on to do great things in the past. Was he nothing without his ability? No, he wasn't that type of person. Placing his hand on the metal robot, he waited, but as the terminal, he was unable to communicate with it, although this time there seemed to be no response at all. If he couldn't control it, then there were other ways of doing things. Using his spiders, they started to form Logan's tool glove over his hand, and he got to work immediately, determined to prove that he could do something. "If Richard Eno was able to make something like this, then I should at least be able to dismantle it," Logan thought. Unlike the terminal, if they were to dismantle it, it would give no such rewards. The software was the brains behind the operation on that. But here Logan could do work with his own two hands. The others waited patiently, not wanting to make a sound to disturb him until finally, click. After a few minutes, a clicking sound was heard, and the front panel had finally opened. Inside, 5 different compartments could be seen. Slowly, one by one, Logan took them out and laid them on the floor next to the robot for the others to see. He had separated the items on the floor according to how he had found them inside the robot. The first one was a single syringe and nothing more. The second compartment was empty. The third held a syringe and 3 red balls. The fourth, a syringe and 5 red balls, and the fifth, another syringe with 5 red balls. Using his inspection skill, Quinn could tell the balls were the same as before, only some of them gave different effects. One of the new ones he could see was a way to permanently increase one's stamina. The more he thought about what the balls were able to do, the more Quinn started to relate it all to his system. The balls were essentially a replacement for his different blood types. As for the syringes, they all had the same effect as the one Quinn had taken at the beginning of the second trial. "I think it's safe to assume why the second compartment was empty. That's probably due to Quinn completing the second trial. The other compartments must be the rewards for the next 3 trials, making 5 in total. Unfortunately, this doesn't seem to help us with our problem of getting out of here," Logan said. "But Quinn, are all these balls the same as the others?" "Kind of," Quinn replied. "Some of them have different effects: speed, strength, and stamina. As for the green liquid effect, it's only temporary. It allows for a power boost for an hour. Although I have to be honest with you guys, the system revolves around me. Everything it tells me is based on what effect it will give me if I consume it. So I don't know if it will have the same effect on you, or if there are even side effects for you guys." Grabbing the items, Logan placed them into one of the many special boxes he had brought along with him from his bag, and placed them all inside for safekeeping. "I think it's best if I take these for now. At some point, perhaps I can look into how it will affect us. By that, I mean the humans of the group. Sorry, Layla," he said, looking at the small little bumps on her head. Unsure whether or not the rewards were worth it, Quinn's quick thinking plan had helped them. Once again, they were stuck in the same scenario as before. Looking ahead at the 6 different doors, he started to wonder if there was a similar robot behind each of them. The Wendigo had given him a good amount of EXP, and if he was to complete the trials fairly this time, in the other rooms, in turn they would get the other rewards. They would give more green liquid as well as what Quinn would now refer to as blood pills. In a tough pinch, the green liquid could be the turning point on whether or not he would win a fight in the future. Perhaps completing the trial and killing all the Wendigos would be enough EXP to even level him up to the next stage. Trials 1 and 2 are quite easy. I wonder if Trial 3 would be similar. Would they all just increase the number of creatures I have to face? Quinn thought. If the 5th trial was just defeating 5 at one go, it would be a pretty easy job with his shadow and blood abilities to deal with them. Somewhere above the laboratory was a large, dark space. Not a single light source could be seen, but the sound of growling and howls was constantly heard. Inside, the Wendigos would consistently and aimlessly wander around. Some didn't move at all, while others bumped into each other as they walked past. Aggressive creatures, but no need to be aggressive towards each other. But in the corner of the large, dark space, a pile of pale white bodies could be seen. However, they weren't human bodies. On top of the mound, it was too dark to see, but a figure sat on top of it. The sound of chewing could be heard, then suddenly the chewing had stopped, and another body was thrown onto the pile. One of the Wendigos who continued to walk around started to hover near the large pile of bodies. A few seconds later, it had disappeared, and the chewing noises could be heard again. After endless searching, it did seem like there was no way out of the place. This wasn't what they were expecting at all, to say the least, when they thought of the vampire world, all being stuck in a strange lab. Is this how we're going to die? Sia thought, as she was wondering what she had gotten herself into. But as she felt like she was about to sob her heart out, the lump in her throat disappeared, and she felt refreshed. You okay? Layla asked with a smile. Yes, actually, much better, Sia replied. Frustrated by the whole thing, Varden was standing by one of the larger doors that was about as large as a van. He pulled out his black blade and started swinging at it as hard as he could. He knew it was useless, but they didn't even know how long they had been in the room, and the fear of the unknown of what was going to happen to them started to settle in. Just open this door! He kept banging on the door with each word. Just moments later, after Varden stopped hitting the door, several groans could be heard from above, screams from creatures, and a bit of dirt from the ceiling fell. They all stood in silence, waiting for it to pass, and eventually the groans stopped. Maybe it's not a good idea to do that when there's a bunch of Wendigos above us, Layla said. The reason why they were all slightly frozen, though, was because of the amount of noise they could hear. It sounded as if 100 people were up there at once, and the structure they were in looked well built. Yet for a brief second, they could hear the sounds of all their footsteps from above. Okay, that's it, Quinn said. We need to do something. How about I start going into the other rooms? Maybe the trial will start again, and we might find something different in the other rooms that can get us out of here. Do you think that's a good idea? Varden replied. What if the trials don't restart, and when you enter the other room it starts from number 3, and we don't even know if that will even happen? This place looks like it was used for experiments, right? Well, what do you do in an experiment to make it a fair test? You make them all the same, but change one factor, not knowing what that factor could be dangerous. Well, it's either that or we stay here until we die, so I see we have no other choice, Quinn replied. You have a point, said Varden. With nothing else to do, Quinn headed over and stood in front of the second door. The others felt a little guilty that Quinn was put in this situation, but it was clear he was the strongest one out of them. As Logan stood by the terminal, he was ready to press the button to open the door to the second room, but as soon as his finger crazed over the button, his ability started communicating with the terminal again. It still wasn't talking to him, but he could feel it. They had angered the computer greatly, and it wasn't going to treat them nicely if Quinn went into that room. Maybe it's not a good idea after all, Logan said, lifting his hand off the button. It's hard to explain, but my ability showed me something. The way the machine is acting, it's like it's human. I think it was annoyed by Quinn's actions from earlier. I don't think it will be putting you through normal trials anymore if you go in there. It might even override me here, shutting you in and never opening the door again. This was something Quinn didn't like the sound of. Truthfully, he assumed that completing the trials wouldn't open the side doors and only amount to more rewards and the possibility of leveling up. However, the risk and reward just weren't worth it. Walking around, Quinn stood back outside door 1 and started to think, those Wendigos came from the above right, and we all heard them up there, which means they have to be coming from somewhere, right? You can't be thinking of trying to go up there, Layla asked. Did you hear how many there were? Even for you, that would mean death. Quinn shook his head. Not up there, but I was thinking, every time a trial started, what happened right at the beginning? It would always drop a severed arm. Only then would it drop the Wendigos in after? This means the human body parts and the Wendigos are stored in 2 different places. I mean, if they were to put it together, all the food would be gone. Maybe if we go up there, we can find something. And how do we get in the room? Sia asked. I have an idea. Once again, with his finger hovered over the button, Logan was ready, and so was Quinn by the original first door, while Varden stood by the robot. Logan had said it had been deactivated by himself, but it was better to be extra safe. The two gave a nod to each other, signaling they were ready. As Logan pushed the button, the door opened up again. Then, instead of entering the room, Quinn decided to stand directly in front of its path. A short time had passed, and the door tried to close. "Maybe I can't break the doors, but I'm pretty sure I'm strong enough to stop you from closing." Using both hands, Quinn pushed against the door, pushing it back into its slot. It wasn't as hard as he thought, but at the same time it wasn't easy either. "Can you hold it?" Varden asked. "Yeah, I should be good for a good while," Quinn replied. All of the group apart from Logan then ventured into the room from before. The robot hadn't activated, and a trial hadn't started like the times before, which was a good sign. Just in case anything happened, though, Logan would stay outside. "Do you remember where the arm dropped from?" Layla asked. "It was right here," Varden said, as he went ahead and tried to cut the square ceiling directly above where the arm had fallen from. At first, nothing happened, but the ceiling panel had slightly moved. He tried again a few times and then succeeded. The panel had been slashed in half, falling to the floor, but with it, small amounts of blood had dripped down and fell onto Varden's cheeks. "Yuck!" he shouted. The group allowed the blood to drip from above a little, and when it finally seemed to stop, they looked up. To them, it just looked like a dark hole, unsure whether it led to a room or how the arm even came down to them in the first place. "How do you know the ceiling might not be made of glathrium?" Layla asked Quinn, who was still holding the door back. "It was when Varden did his little act earlier. Glathrium is extremely rare and hard to mold, so some of it might not be pure like the doors. But when part of the ceiling had crumbled and fell into the room earlier, I checked it out with my inspection skill. Turns out it wasn't 100% glathrium. The problem was, I wasn't going to go and start blasting the ceiling, possibly dropping hundreds of Wendigos on top of us. If the ceiling in there wasn't pure glathrium, then maybe here it wasn't either." They all continued to look at the hole above them, each just staring at it, wondering what was up there. "Can someone please hurry up and go in?" Quinn complained. "This is tiring, you know." "Oh, I thought Varden was going to go in," Layla said. "So did I," Sia replied. "Why, me? Aren't you the one with the magic powers now?" Varden replied. An angry look appeared on her face, but she didn't say anything, and Sia too was staring down at Varden. "Fine," Varden replied as he looked up at the hole in the ceiling. "Here we go."
Hi, Quinn here. Wondering what happens next? If you want to jump the queue and unleash all episodes, click on the link here and install the Pocket FM app.